And if you look on the energy input chart, you can see that the fertilizer, it's this bottom bar here on the conventional side is huge. This is all the fertilizers. Like half of the energy input in conventional farming, it looks like, is coming from fertilizers. Yet over here on the organic side, we got zip because they don't use those chemical fertilizers at all. That's part of what organic farming is. And also as far as herbicides are concerned, you've got kind of a small bar over here on conventional farming, and no bar over here no part of the bar for the organic farming. But there is something here that I find troublesome, which is that the diesel fuel used in organic farming is this whole big kind of goldy colored bar, whereas less diesel fuel used over here in conventional farming. But this is the Rodale Institute's trials. I think these graphs would look very different if you were looking at really small scale farming and peasant farming around the world. A lot of these peasant farmers have, 4 acres of land or less, and they're probably not out there with a lot of big heavy equipment doing their farming. So I have a feeling if you were looking at peasant farming, this gold bar would be going down. The second chart is also from Rodale, but this is a greenhouse gas emission chart, and it parallels the energy quite a bit, but we've got N2O emissions from the soil, nitrous oxide for conventional farming is this huge gold bar up here. This is nitrous oxide escaping from the soil. Over here under organic, there's still some escaping from the soil because all the soil has it in it. But then down here for conventional, you've got this whole big blue bar on mine. I'm sorry y'all didn't get color, I couldn't afford it. This is the manufactured fertilizers that are put on conventional farms, and basically nothing over here on organic because they're not using those conventional fertilizers.
What are the specific harms that come from the fertilizer?
Okay, well let's go on and talk about this nitrous oxide in just one moment. But before we do that, I'm gonna tell you. Y'all are familiar with the Green Revolution, right? And probably what you've heard is this wonderful thing that increased all of the production all over the world and really helped farmers. Well, the point of this book is the Green Revolution is the pits. It's hurt farmers all over the world. It's not what you want. It's a lot about fertilizers, chemical fertilizers. That was the main part of it, plus hybrid seeds and now GMO seeds, all of which are disastrous for people in the global south. Now, fertilizers these are the problems with fertilizers. They require a large amount of natural gas to produce them. So 1 to 2% of total global energy production is, produced anywhere is used to produce fertilizers. Okay, so that's a chunk. But far worse than that is that nitrous oxide is 300 times more potent as a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide, and is also the world's most significant ozone depleting substance. So for every 100 kilograms of nitrogen fertilizer applied to the soil, 1 kilogram ends up in the atmosphere. So I think I'd like us to read what on my thing is box 1, the fertilizer footprint. I have it on page 25, but you'll have to find it on yours.
Page 19.
Okay, page 19. Would somebody like to read that for us?
Scientists now know that the 17% increase of nitrous oxide in the atmosphere since the pre-industrial era is a direct result of chemical fertilizers, owing especially to the deployment of the so-called Green Revolution programs of the 1960s that brought chemical fertilizers into use in Asia and Latin America. They also now know that the amount of into nitrous oxide emissions resulting from the application of nitrogen fertilizers is more in the range of 3% to 5%, a dramatic increase from the IPCC's assumption of 1%. That's on page 19.
And we're not paying for that. It's economics again. People are polluting. They're putting carbon, nitrous oxides, and those stuff into the atmosphere, but they're not paying a penny for it. Get the economics right, you'll change the outputs.
And it's not just the nitrous oxide, it's that when you're using ammonium nitrate that's from natural gas or methane, that's killing soil. So it's not just into the air, it's also killing the soil.
And all of these
Microbes and all the creatures that are in the soil. So we're not replenishing the soil, we're using it up. And then one other aspect that we didn't address a few minutes ago is that the way agribusiness does, 60% of topsoil has gone down the major rivers into whatever gulf is nearby. All over the
Again, they
world.
should be charged for that.
Pardon me?
If we're gonna work in a capitalist system, you've gotta get the prices right. And when you're allowing people to pollute for free, you're not getting the prices right.
The externalities, we're not paying attention.
The so-called externalities, they're not really external.
I'd like to add, my father worked in a fertilizer plant in Florida, and something that hasn't been mentioned is that huge areas of Florida have been strip mined to get those nitrates and not rebuilt.
And the whole coastal area around Florida and the Gulf Coast has turned into an algae swamp
Yeah.
because of the excess nitrogenous materials going down in the drains to the Gulf. It's killing things.
People are just exploiting the environment for free, we're not charging for it. Charge for it, you can change it.
No. Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
For all these 15 years, we've said that same thing. We know that. We know what the corporations are doing to us. What we haven't had in this group is a book that tells us what to do about it. The title of this book, of this wonderful book, says what we can do about it. Well, it doesn't tell us what we can do.
CCL is doing something about it.
It doesn't tell us.
They're doing something about it.
It's right here, this page that we started on and then didn't finish. These are the positive answers that Nick was asking for a few minutes ago.
Right.
These are the areas that we can work on.
He does need some teeth.
But did you just hear what Wally said? These are the areas that we can work on.
The
This book
positives.
does not offer us a systematic response to these. They say, here are the problems for us, and which is all that perhaps this book can do, or any one book can do. Each one of these categories is very complicated about what we do about it. For example, in the banking system, who's making money out of this? And how do we systematically turn it around?
But this first answer is so simple, get a price on carbon, tax carbon.
First, we have to get the corporations to do that.
Yeah,
That's what I'm talking about.
that's what CCL is working on.
It's all political,
Yeah,
so much
absolutely.
political matter. And I'm not, in any way criticizing this book. This is the most wonderful book, in that it opens up whole realms of new understanding about how the food system works.
Okay, well, let's go on to our last graph there in your. And we're going to go on to section 2.3, Hungry for the Land, which is on my page 75. Yeah, and this graph that we have there, they've got an analysis
Page
of,
65.
yeah. In the handout that I gave you, you've got a graph on the last page, and that's what I'd like to look at for just a moment before we get going on the Hungry for Land section. Yeah.
Okay, I have it on 68 in my book.
Okay, well, if you have if you look at the one that I did, I put the two sides together and it's easier to read.
This is
Yeah.
the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and I've written at the bottom of my sheet there that those of you that are looking at that, some of the main conclusions that you get from looking at this chart, which is that the vast majority of farms are small and getting smaller. The average size is 2.2 hectares, which is the figure down at the very bottom corner. That's for the world. And the average size, 2.2 hectares, and if you don't know what a hectare is, it's about 2.5 acres. So, you know, we're talking about 5 acres here. But yet, if you look at India, the average farm is 0.6 acres. These are really small farms. And so part of what I was talking about using less diesel fuel in, you know, people in the global south, they're probably not using heavy equipment on these really small farms. So I imagine that their greenhouse gas emissions are way smaller than we were seeing on those Rodale charts. Okay, then another conclusion from this is that small farms are on less than 1/4 of the world's farmland. That's this figure right here. When you look at the world and then the percent of agricultural land in the hands of small farmers. So 75% of the land, farmland in the world is in the hands, presumably mostly of corporations. Okay, but yet they say repeatedly in this book, and I've also seen it in materials put out by the United Nations and various nonprofits that talk about this, is that it is the small farmers who are really feeding the people in the world. The corporations have these huge plantations of palm oil and sugar cane and all of the various commodities. And, you know, some of them do some produce and grains and so on. But for much of the world, you know, the food system is local farmers are producing it, and local people are buying it from them. You know, without those local farmers, way more people would be hungry than are hungry now in many parts of the world. But yet there are land grabs going on all over the world where corporations and nations are taking the land away from the people who have been on it for who knows how long. Okay, and then one other interesting thing here that I thought was that in Asia, and including China and India, the small farmers still do have more of the land than they do in the other parts of the world. You know, more like 35%, all the way in China up to almost 71% is in the hand of small farmers. But China is now trying to turn that around and introducing more corporate farming, taking land away from the peasants there also. So it's a worldwide trend. The small farmers are feeding the world, the corporations are grabbing the land. Who's going to feed the world? So that's a big piece of the problem. Okay, so then the beginning of the chapter, they have 6 conclusions. The vast majority of farms in the world today are small and getting smaller. Small farms are currently squeezed onto less than 1/4 of the world's farmland. We are fast losing farms and farmers in many places, while big farms are getting bigger. Those are the things we were just talking about. Small farms continue to be the major food producers in the world. Small farms are overall more productive than big farms, and most small farmers are women.
That's the introduction of the land.
Right, that's their 6 major points, and then in this chapter they go on to talk about each of those. And I think maybe we might benefit from reading a little bit of the last couple of sections. Small farms not only produce most of the food, but they're also the most productive. Would anybody like to read that section?
What page are you on now?
I'm on page 84. Would you be willing to read that section for us, Lori?
Small farms
The
not only
chapter
produce
is
most of the
65.
food, they're also the most productive.
65.
For some, the idea that small farms are more productive than big farms might seem counterintuitive. After all, we've been told for decades that industrial farming is more efficient and more productive. It's actually the other way around. The inverse relationship between farm size and productivity has been long established and is dubbed the productivity paradox. In the EU, 20 countries register a higher rate of production per hectare on small farms than on large farms. In 9 EU countries, productivity of small farms is at least twice that of big farms. In the 7 countries where large farms have higher productivity, it's only slightly higher than that of small farms. This tendency is confirmed by numerous studies in other countries and regions, all of them showing higher productivity on small farms. Our data indicate, for example, that if all farms in Kenya had the current productivity of its small farms, Kenya's agricultural production would double. In Central America and Ukraine, it would almost triple. In Hungary and Tajikistan, it would increase by 30%. In Russia, it would be increased by a factor of 6. Although big farms generally consume more resources, control the best lands, receive most of the irrigation water and infrastructure, get most of the financial credit and technical assistance, and are the ones for whom most modern inputs are designed, they have lower technical efficiency and therefore lower overall productivity. Much of this has to do with low levels of employment used on big farms in order to maximize return on investment. Beyond strict productivity measurement, small farms also are much better at producing and utilizing biodiversity, maintaining landscapes, contributing to local economies, providing work opportunities, and promoting social cohesion, not to mention their real and potential contribution to reversing the climate crisis.
Well, I guess that at least gives you a sense of what's in this book. And I really recommend reading it. It's quite an endeavor to read because there's so much information packed into it. But what I would like to do for the last part of our meeting today is I got an interesting email from Dick this morning, and maybe in a minute he'll tell you something about what he wrote to me. And it inspired me to come up with a discussion question for this group. And so it's a very long discussion question, but I'll just go ahead and read it because I was just sort of, brainstorming with myself or something. And the question is this, and it's not about our meeting today, it's about Climate Forum in general, really. So can this group, Climate Forum, come up with a plan to very rapidly turn the system around and get off fossil fuels, but also close down the industrial food system? Once you realize that it isn't just fossil fuels, but also agriculture, and at least a huge chunk of industrial activities, and I personally would say all of them, it's clear that a transition to renewable energy is not all that's needed. Some of the books we've read in Climate Forum have also made it clear the changes we need to make are all-encompassing. Ian Angus's book, Facing the Anthropocene, Vandana Shiva's book, Soil Not Oil, Naomi Klein's book, This Changes Everything, Capitalism versus the Climate, to name a few of those books. Is there a way to get at the roots of the problems in our society that have brought us climate chaos and the sixth extinction? Could this group use the knowledge we have already to carefully select books for upcoming sessions that would help us to come up with an analysis of how to quickly create the kinds of enormous social change that is needed? Can we undertake the task of forming such a deep analysis? So I'm asking you for some deep thought here, and I do want to ask that we not get stuck on talking about ways of changing, putting in a carbon tax or changing the taxation system. I think what's called for here is a much those are all good things to do. They're ways of addressing the problem of climate change, but do not address the problem of the sixth extinction. Don't address the problems that we've been talking today about corporate agriculture. So I'd like you to think more deeply what, humor me, this is my meeting today. I volunteered to do this one, so play with me in my sandbox here, and maybe Dick's sandbox too, if I at all have gotten to what he was thinking about. Could we do this? Could this group do this? We've been thinking about climate change for a long time. Is there some way we can think really deeply about this? So I open it to you. Peg, then Lolly, then
All right, I'm just, this book opened my eyes to the problems of NAFTA or the trade deals that have been going on. When I would hear about world trade and opening up, and I thought, well, that sounds like a good idea. That sounds like, I don't see how that could be harmful, and like this, okay, but after reading it, I said, oh my God, that's horrible. And so I don't know if, and I think that, I just can't say his name. One thing that he's talking about, instead of what I'm trying to say his name. But anyway, you know what I'm talking about. He's talking about reneging on all of these deals, everything. He just wants to renege on everything, but maybe that's a solution in some, I don't know, in some weird way. I don't know. That's just my thought.
I take it to a personal level. Each one of us does what we can. And so what Norm and I did 40 years ago was move out of the city. And I know that's not necessarily a solution, but we moved out of the city to live sustainably. Back then we called it voluntary simplicity. And so from my perspective, well, we're energy hogs.
Versus slave labor.
Really, yeah. So we eat from our garden all year long. We get clean meat because we are meat eaters, because we have friends who grow clean meat, and they understand about how animals and CO2 can be okay together. It's not just the methane they put out. You can move them to small pastures, and they enrich the soil rather than making it worse. At any rate, with having geothermal and solar and kind of a small carbon footprint, not exactly, because we do water our land through irrigation from the ponds we built. So Transitions is the organization that I've started working with now rather than more political organizations. And that's what Transitions, starting in the UK in 2006, I think it was, with Rob Hopkins. His is a very positive way to go at it. He's not as politicized, and his approach matches so much the approach that Norm and I chose to do, so that we create our own food, built our own house, have chickens and that kind of stuff, and do our own fertilizer. And the idea of these transition towns in United Kingdom was sustainability as the descent of oil occurred. So we knew it was going to be an energy problem always, and then sustainability with working within community. So there's a very active alternative community where I live out in the mountains, and they support a small alternative school called Headwaters. So we already have a setup similar to what Rob Hopkins in his transition towns has hoped for. But we're very independent, just like people in the United States are, and we're very individualistic, because I think that was our personalities when we moved away from the cities. But I think the basis is there, the foundation is there, and that's what I've thought about. Thank you, Katie, for the opportunity.
Dick, do you want to say something about what you wrote to me this morning?
Well, I was just playing this morning. I was rereading Noam Chomsky's book on anarchism, and I saw quickly how this could be described as a book about anarchism. The definition, the opening paragraph, and Noam Chomsky's approach to anarchism are identical. That is, that nothing that is chosen and decided and organized by people at the top or at remote areas can be legitimate. The only thing that's legitimate is what is arranged by the people themselves. Now, I would ordinarily call that democracy.
Yes.
Democratization, but it also fits Chomsky's approach to anarchism. That doesn't preclude Chomsky from trying to reform everything that he can reform along the way, the long range. But I really, anarchism is such a fringe word and a fringe concept. I don't want to press that. This is a personal letter to Eugene that was interesting to me to put those two books together. So your question is, how can we get at the root?
Yeah.
I think, as you said, that each one of us start practicing a whole alternative way of life from our corporate way of life. So that would be one solution. And each one of us must do that. Is that right?
But in community. In community. And so,
Yes. Well, and as this book points out, it's always got to be from community all the way to regions. Local, Mr. Mann doesn't have a big respect for localism. That is, it's got to be larger than individual atom people to get anything.
like bioregions.
Things like that. So this would be what you're getting at, is this example would be a solution getting at a root? Is that getting at the roots?
Well, what is the root? Is it capitalism? Is it growth? Is it fossil fuels? Is it
Is it that?
nail down this?